My bike will arrive. Okay, so once you remove the outer packaging, you'll need to remove the cage, the protective cage. Okay, so in the box you'll find two bags with nuts and bolts. You'll know which ones are for the handlebars because it will have these supplied in there. There should be 4 in there. This one will be for the wheels and the shocks. This is your petrol cap, and this is a safety switch which must be connected in order to start the bike. And you will also have a toolkit with an 8 to 15mm selection of spanners and a screwdriver and an Allen kit. Handlebars. You'll need a 10mm spanner. You will need these, and one will go on the top of the handlebars and one will go underneath, like that. So when putting the handlebars on, I recommend that you put the back bolts in first, so you can put the front guard on easier, and then just line it up and put the bolts through. Okay, so this is how it should look when the handlebars are on. Remembering that the front guard is on the top. We're going to attach the shock. When it arrives, it'll either be attached at the top or attached at the bottom, but this one is attached at the bottom, so we're going to have to put the bolt through at the top. Bolt through.
And paused it.
Okay, so this is how the track rod end will look. You'll see it with a bolt already through it, so you don't have to look through the bag for one. And you just unbolt it. Put it through there. And bolt it up at the bottom. Once the shock and the track rod end is connected, we'll then attach the front wheel and the brake caliper at the same time. To do this, you'll need an 8mm socket or a spanner and a 19mm socket or a spanner. The 8mm will be for the brake caliper bolts, which will already be in the brake caliper, and the 19mm socket or spanner for the front wheel nut, which will be in the bag provided. We'll just keep it there. Okay, so once the front wheel is on, you'll then have to put the brake caliper onto the disc and then push the wheel in, and make sure the holes for the mounting points for the brake caliper line up, and push the bolts through. Okay, you'll need to do this on the other side as well. Okay, so now we're moving on to the back. 2 bars like this on the side of the bike here, and one long one and one short one. The long one will go on the sprocket side here, and the shorter one will go on the disc side here. Okay, so now we're putting on the rear wheel. When you put on the rear wheel, watch for this keyway doesn't get pushed up and drop on the floor somewhere. And make sure you line it up. Make sure you just slide on and then tighten it up. Okay, so looking at the rear of the bike, you'll find that the rear shock is already attached, and the chain adjusters that you won't have to adjust from factory, but over time the chain will slacken and you will have to adjust these. And all you do is slacken off these 2 bolts, which are a 10 and a 12, and same at the bottom here. Okay, when attaching the grub rail, there'll be 2 bolts here and 2 bolts on the other side, but the 1 bolt here just above the exhaust you'll have to take out to attach the grub rail. Okay, so when doing the brakes you'll already find that there is oil in the reservoir, but over time just keep an eye on it and make sure that there's oil in it, just to make sure the brakes are working fine. But initially you'll just make sure that you give the brakes a pump just so they're working fine, and same with the cable brakes. Okay, so once there's fuel in the quad and it's ready to start, make sure the fuel tap is in the on position, so it's facing downwards, and make sure that when you're starting the choke is all the way down, and then gradually once it warms up move it up to halfway, so about there. Okay, so now that you're ready to start, make sure the key is in the on position, make sure the choke is all the way down, and it may take a couple of attempts, but